Okay, hi Alex. Hi again. It's lovely to speak with you today and talk to you about your story, which has been shortlisted for the 2023 African Bishop Story Prize. And I think we would start off by having you talk about what being shortlisted for this prize means to you.
Okay. First of all, I feel like being shortlisted for the prize is very exciting, and I say exciting because this year wasn't my first attempt. So the very first edition of the prize, 2020, I sent in I saw the announcement, So I think I saw the announcement a little too late. So because of that, I wasn't able to write anything new. I just had to send in something I already had, which actually wasn't a very good fit for the theme, but I just wanted to send in something. So I sent in that story and I wasn't expecting to get understood. And actually, I didn't get understood. But then last year, I saw the theme spirituality and I felt like it was something I could do. So I wrote a story and I sent that one. I made it to the long list, but that was where I stopped. So I decided I was going to come this year and I was going to come back stronger. So I did, and yeah, I appeared on and now on the short list. So that's exciting for me. And then I'm also optimistic because I'm looking forward to actually winning this prize. So that's it.
Fingers crossed for you. You talked about
Optimistic.
You talked about being inspired to write the story you sent in last year based on the theme. Was that the same for you this year?
Yeah, definitely. It was the theme. So the thing is, funny enough, at the announcement came, I was working on a different story. I was working on a different story for a contest. But I didn't to enter for this contest. So I started thinking. Immediately I saw the theme, I think, what would be the topic or a good story for the prize. I wasn't getting anything unique. I had a couple of ideas. One second one, I just felt like they were not award-winning materials. I just sort of trashed it. And finally, I was able to, and when I got this opportunity, and the ingredients when I saw that theme, I knew in my mind that when I saw that theme, the first thing that came to mind was, every other person that sees this theme, aliens, is probably going to be thinking of, galaxies, outer space, things like that. That was what came to my mind. I like to, approach things like this, from a different angle, think outside the box. So I started thinking, how do I, approach this, from a different angle. So I thought of what's going to be a very unique interpretation for that theme of aliens. And finally decided, okay, looking from the angle of otherness, the angle of being different from the other person. So why I wrote this story.
And that's really that comes across when someone reads your story. That you explored otherness in the story. And I was wondering if you drew from your experiences when you wrote the story. Where did the idea come from? The idea of a hunchback. Um, and yeah, some of the other details. I don't want to spoil the story for other people, but some of the other details where did they come from?
Okay, yeah. So obviously it wasn't a personal experience because I've never had experience being a hunchback. So yeah, it wasn't my own personal experience. But yeah, so what happened was, I had a couple of ideas. Once I knew that I wanted to talk about being different from every other person, I had a couple of ideas. I thought of sexuality, I thought of having physical defects. I still thought of and it was going to work if I went something that I feel like a Hunchback story is not something that you get to see. I've read a lot of stories, a lot of short stories, even novels. I don't think I've read too many stories with Hunchback as the lead character, so that was basically what chose that topic, Hunchback. I mean, I've read a lot of, sexuality, a lot of stories that talk about sexuality. So yeah, that was basically why I chose the Hunchback story.
And what was the process of writing the story like for you? Like, how long did it take to write? What was the process of writing?
Oh yeah, so
how long did it take, and what was the process like?
So normally, when I write stories, I'm the sort of person that likes to take my time. I always feel like the time I spend writing my story, the better the story comes out. So usually I anywhere from like 2 weeks to a month to do a story. But the funny thing is, with this particular story, I ended up doing the story in just 1 week. It was just, I think it was exactly 7 days. What happened was, I just had the idea to put it out on my phone. Usually I would work on my laptop. So, but this one I was working on my phone, and it was almost like there was some divine power there, just like dictating everything to me. So it was just it was flowing, and it was flowing, and I felt it that it was going well. So because of that, it just kept moving very fast, And before I knew it, I was done. 7 days.
That's a very short time. That's a very short time to produce a short story.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention, I wrote it in 7 days, but 7 days wasn't what it took to get through it to where it is now. Now I wrote the actual writing in 7 days, but the editing, the thing is, I'm the kind of person that spends more time editing than the actual writing. So the actual writing was just 7 days, but then, I think I edited the story for more than a month. Because if I had submitted this story the very day I finished writing it, I would have submitted the second week after the announcement came. But I waited until a week before the day. So all that time I was editing. I give the space for like 2 weeks. I would not even agree for like 2 weeks. Come back so that you're able to see the story with fresh eyes, from a fresh perspective. I was doing that, and I just decided, okay, this is too close to the line. So it's about 7 days to write the actual story.
Okay, that makes sense. Something else I felt when I read the story was, and I think I mentioned this to you when we were talking before this interview. Something else I noticed when I started reading the story was that from the first sentence, it's very compelling. It's a very compelling story. It feels like the writer is in control of the narration. Did you feel like that when you start to write the story? Did you feel like you were in control of the story, or did that control come later on?
Late last year, towards last year, I had something like an epiphany. What that basically means is that I discovered something about my writing process. I discovered something that would actually help my writing process. And what that thing is, in the past, I would just, when I wanted to tell a story, I would just jump into the story without doing much, think beforehand. But then last year, I just decided that, okay, now, before I do any story, I'm going to make sure that I have everything, or at least 70% of the story figured out before I jump into the story. So with this story, that was exactly what happened. I thought about the story very well. I mean, I feel like the 30% of the story that I did not have figured out were things that I could not possibly have known. There were things that I had to actually work on the story to figure out. So I knew about 17 of the story before jumping in. And I feel like that definitely helped the writing process. It helps the story, in terms of making the story feel like, it was controlled.
Do you have a favorite piece of something you've written? Like what would be your best?
A favorite piece of something I've written?
Something you've written. What would be the best work that you, or the work you feel most connected?
Yeah.
That you've written?
I'm thinking it might be this story. I'm thinking it might be this story actually. Wow. I feel like I like this story to the point where I can actually recite I mean, I like the story. I don't know if it was also because I spent so much time editing the story, but I can literally recite the first paragraph and maybe even a bit of second paragraph without even you understand. So yes, I feel like definitely this is one of the stories that that's my favorite.
Okay. I have two more questions and then that will be it. So the first one is why do you write?
Okay. I mean, obviously, I write because I feel like I have something to say. I feel like I do have something to say, and also I write because I feel like if I wasn't writing, what else would I be doing? This is the one skill that I know that, this is that one skill, that I'm very sure I'm proficient in. This is something I really know how to do well, and I feel like we have a lot of social issues, and I feel like I should lend my voice to some of these things. So that's one of the reasons why I write. But also, I think I also write because, writing, I find writing fascinating, and I also love being able to create, to create stories with words. I also love the fact that, I can do something that not everybody, can do. That's not a very modest thing to say. Yes, that's how I feel about that's how I feel about writing. It's one of the reasons why I write. I can do what not everybody else can do, and I can do it well. But yeah, mainly is because I have things to say, and I feel like it's
Just a follow up based on what you said. A lot of people actually write, Alex. A lot of people actually write. So what do you think makes you write?
sorry.
I said a lot of people actually write.
What do I think? What?
A lot of people actually write. So what do you think makes your writing different? Like what's different?
Okay, yeah. I mean, even if everybody writes, I mean, I feel like no two people write the same way. Everybody. I think, the stuff we've read together to sort of because they write something unique. I think that first of all, someone who likes first I value entertainment. So when I write, I always think of entertainment. I'm thinking about story going to entertain my reader. I want a story that that when I'm writing, that when somebody is reading it, they can feel the suspense, they can feel the emotions, they can feel connected to my characters. And also usually when I write a story, I try to use humor into my prose. So I don't know if it's something that people can easily detect. Yeah, but it's something I do in my prose, and I feel like that's something that also helps my writing be unique. But mainly, I think it's the fact that I have a very simple style of writing. I consciously always try to do stuff that are simple to read. I don't enjoy reading stories where I have to visit the dictionary every 2 minutes. Do you understand? So when I write, I try to do those kinds of stories that you can just read, and I mean spaced, fluid stories that you can just read and get to the without too much trouble. So yes, I feel that's what makes my writing unique.
You talked about humor and it just reminded me of something. You reminded me of something that I experienced when I read your story, The Hyena and the Two-Headed Goat. So there's a part where the narrator goes looking for Biggie and she finds Biggie in Bogar's yard and they were doing something and she was calling him from like inside the house. And then when she stepped into the street, she was like, Mommy said you should come and remove your stinky shoes from the parlor. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
I had a big laugh when I read that. So so yeah, you're good. I think you're good with him. If that's something.
Thank you very much.
Finally, Okay. This question is going to be in two ways. Like it's going to be two pronged. Who are,
Okay.
who are your writing influences? That's one. And then the second part of it is what advice do you have to young writers or to other writers who are considering submitting to African or any other short story?
Okay. The first one, who are influences? Is that what you?
Yeah, who influences your writing?
Okay. I feel like I have about five. Yes, some ways I think they influence my writing. First of all, Chimamanda. But yeah, other than Chimamanda, the body I really love, and I love her so much. That's Nifa Nansubu Kundi. I don't know. There's something about this one writing that just gets me going. I really love the way she writes. There's some Africanness story. When you read her stories, you can just the characters just feel so real. Setting everything just feel very African. And I every time I read a story, I did not just read to be entertained. I read to actually learn from what she's doing. And she's also someone that knows how to write humor into her stories. So yeah, Chimamanda, Jennifer Natsuboga Mambi, Imbolo Mbue. I mean, it's just I've only read one of her books, Behold the Dreamers. But yeah, I really loved that book, and ever since then, I just knew that this is somebody I'm definitely going to want to read again. Imbolo Mbue. I love Igoni Barrett as well. Igoni Barrett, his book Blacks. I read it. Love is power or something like that. So Igoni Barrett, I love the way he writes, and then even though she doesn't have a novel yet, I love Amy Aguda a lot, like a whole lot, right from her days in activism. When she won activism with her story, Kitra Kitra, I've always loved Amy Aguda. So anything she writes, I want to read. I read her story, Breast Milk, and I really loved that story. So yeah, those people, those are my favorites.
Amy fan as well. So that makes the two of us.
Yeah, and then finally, what would I say was that your second question? What would I say to writers who are aspiring to win the Afritondo Short Story Prize?
Well, and to submit to other prizes as
well. I'd say, if you want this, you don't need anybody's permission, you don't need anybody's validation. So the thing is, right, I had a lot of rejection when I had a lot of rejections. I was submitting my stories to prizes. Writivism, despite being to the long list eventually, initially I was submitting to that prize, I was not nominated. 2016, 2017, I was submitting to work it wasn't popular like this then. It was, I think, Farafina Writers Workshop or something. I was into that workshop, 2016. I didn't get accepted. I don't know if it was too early for me, if I was too early in my writing career then, maybe I still needed to block on my writing at that point, But yeah, I was submitting and I wasn't getting accepted. I could just as easily have given up, you understand? But then I didn't. I decided that I was going to work on myself, and I did that. What I did basically was I would identify those parts of my writing that were lacking. If it was it dialogue? Was I struggling with dialogue? Was I struggling with stream of consciousness? I would identify all these things, and then I would go online. I would just search them out. Read articles on this thing, try to push myself up. And I kept doing that for each of those places in my writing that was lacking until, I started noticing, some improvements. So yes, that's why I say that, you don't need anybody's validation or permission. If you really want it, go for it.
And that's good advice. Thank you so much for talking to me, Alex.